Welcome everybody to Project You, Project Me, the FTG guide to self-belief and self-coaching. Why not come along and listen to people like you, people like me, leaving legacies for your future. So welcome, ladies and gents, to Project You, Project Me. And today we've got a very interesting guest, someone who actually was around when we first started the Forces Transition Group about 4 years ago, I think it was probably now. We've got Iain Griffiths. Iain, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah. Had a very busy summer running a marquee hire business, but things are starting to sort of, I wouldn't say sort of die a death, but they're becoming a little bit more manageable. I'll be able to have a little bit more of a rest going forward.
So, but we'll go on about the franchise, your company, and how hard you've worked, all that kind of stuff. But tell me a little bit about you. I suppose how where you grew up, your military career, if you like, at the beginning, so people can relate to the person that they're listening to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I grew up in a small village in Merseyside called Rainhill. It's by Wiston Hospital, if anybody knows it. Small community. Went to school obviously, and left school. Didn't really have any direction of what I wanted to do. Got my GCSEs, and then I ended up just. I always knew I wanted to work with my hands. An office job probably wasn't for me. I was more hands-on. I ended up signing up for it was called a warehouse and distribution operatives MVQ level 1, 2, and 3. It was just it was the new thing from a YTS. So it basically meant that you'd go working somewhere and go to college one day a week, or the college would come to you. So I started that, and look had it that the placement that I got was like 100 yards at the bottom of my road. There was a tire warehouse that distributed tires to the fast fit industry. So like your likes of your independent tire dealers, Quick Fit, all of those sort of companies. So big, huge warehouse full of tires. I worked on goods in to start off with, so all the tires coming from Italy, France, and all the rest of the places that they come from, and then ended up swapping over to order picking for the vans and stuff like that, and did a bit of work on the trade counter, doing invoicing and stuff like that. And I never ever thought that start to my working life would ever be useful. It was kind of a means to an end. I think I was getting 50 quid a week, and then they took me on. I think I was on 130 quid a week for like 45 hours back then. So we're talking like maybe nearly 25 years ago now. So, but lo and behold, I'm now sat in a warehouse, owning my own company where I do invoicing every day. And I do stock control and everything else, and all the other stuff that I learned during that time. I actually use those skills now. So it wasn't time wasted. I had a really good time. A lot of it was a great laugh in that factory. We had some great characters and things like that. Great start to my working life. But I always knew that I wanted to, flee the nest as it were, because growing up in a small village, everybody knows everyone. It's a bit culty, the village. If anyone's grew up in a village, they'll know exactly what I mean. The barber knows everyone. The butcher knows everyone, and do anything wrong, or you get drunk in a pub on a Friday night, everyone knows about it. I wanted to go out and see the world. One of my mates James had already joined the Royal Navy, in fact, and he was coming home spinning his dits on the weekend, telling me all about his adventures around Portsmouth and Plymouth and wherever he'd been on the ship. So I thought that I'll have a little go at that. Went down to my local careers office in St Helens, and seen the chief petty officer, signed up. I didn't really know what job I wanted to do. The option for it was either stoker at the time they were looking for, or operator mechanics, which is sort of radar operative, and they do seamanship and all sorts of stuff like that. and they do a lot of cleaning and painting the ship. So they're called, I don't know whether you know this, but their nickname is Dabber. So a dabber, because you're painting a lot of the time. So yeah, I think it was about 9 months after I signed, something like that, 9, 10 months, and I was on the train to HMS Raleigh. And by this time, I think it was about 20 then. Yeah, I was about 19, 20. Yeah. 19, I think I was, yeah. So yeah, off down to Raleigh with this other lad who from Widnes. We both got on the train together, and we're still friends now. Yeah, so yeah, that was the sort of how I got into the armed forces, and remained in there for about 5 years after that.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. It's great to listen to stories. It's not a million. I mean, I know I joined the British Army. It isn't a million miles away from what happened to me. Basically, just ended up in a careers office and doing what I was told, because you don't know, do you? And off you go. But interesting to hear your life started off in not the same as what you're doing now, but them lessons learned were really valuable. So just explain what it is you do now. What is it that your the Party Tent company is? What do you actually do?
Well, yeah, well, just to sort of add to that, I believe that everything that you do within your working career, subconsciously you collect skills from it. So once I'd left the Royal Navy, obviously I'd learned how to work in a team, discipline, be on time, all of these different skills that you learn in the armed forces, which fundamentally are transferable to Civvy Street. It's absolutely just how you advertise those skills when you get out. So if you've sort of it's about wording your CV correctly, rather than because civvies don't understand the jargon that we use in the armed forces. So when you're coming out, you need to reword it so that it's transferable into civilian life. And and then once I'd left the Royal Navy, I ended up as a sales rep in a multimedia company. Anyone's ever bought a car, they'll know the company Auto Trader. So I learned social media, SEO, sales, all sorts of different skills in that then led me up to what I'm doing now. But yeah, what I do now is when I was in Auto Trader, I started at the bottom, customer services, went to telesales, all in the space of about 4 or 5 years. Ended up in field sales, which meant that I was going around to customers, teaching them all about search engine optimization and social media and placing adverts and everything else. Became an acting area sales manager when my manager was off on maternity leave. And I tried to hire a marquee. So and I was priced out of hiring a marquee because I was getting quotes, daft silly quotes for like $3,000, $2,500, whatever it was. And I thought to myself, there must be a solution for people like myself who don't want to spend, who haven't got a budget to spend like thousands of pounds, but they just want a solution in the back garden to give themselves a little bit of a temporary covering for a birthday celebration, an intimate wedding, whatever it is, bar mitzvah, whatever the situation is. There must be some sort of solution for those type of people that I found myself in. So I did a little bit of research myself, found that there weren't many people doing that. And then I thought to myself, right, I decided that I'm going to do it properly from the get-go, and I recruited a lady called Gillian Hunt from John Moores University. So she was like a sort of professor of business in John Moores University in Liverpool. Wow. But what she did as a sort of side business, because she was very, very passionate about startups, helping startups, she had a side business called Escarta. And during the evening times, during the week and on weekends, she'd help startups. You had to pay her, of course, for a time, but it wasn't an awful lot of money. Funny side story, Jill said to me at the beginning, there's 2 ways we can do it. One's more expensive than the other. I went, right, okay, what's the expensive one? And she went, right, we can hire a room somewhere around the uni or whatever. And I went, all right, well, what's the less expensive one? She went, we'll just sit in the pub and do it. So we sat, if anyone is interested, has been to Liverpool, they'll know right by the Philharmonic Hall, there's a pub called the Philharmonic, and it's a really like sort of Peaky Blinders style pub with all these snugs and everything. And me and this lovely lady Gillian sat in the bar area of there having a Coke and a packet of crisps every Thursday evening, writing my business plan. So yeah, after we'd written the business plan, done the market research, everything else, Gillian said, look, I think this business is viable from the research that we've done and everything that we've written down. I'd have a go at it and do it part-time just to make sure that you've still got your income. Don't just like leave your job and start. So that's what happened. Started hiring marquees out on the weekend, had some in my shed, had some in my back bedroom. And then Auto Trader then came to us and said, look, there's some redundancies happening. You can go up against each other, or there was an enhanced package available at the time. So I spoke to my support network, my mum. Well, I don't know if we were married at the time. No, we weren't. My wife to be at the time, yeah, I took the enhanced package of redundancy and invested it in the business then as well. Yeah, and started hiring marquees and started to grow them because I didn't have work to do. I could go full time.
Yeah.
Look at it as well, all these little bits of luck that I'm having along the way, which I believe everybody needs a little bit
Definitely,
of luck, and you do get them from time to time, and you've got to sort of take them with take the bull by the horns when you get those little bits of luck. But my auntie had a livery yard, where she sort of rented stables out to people who had the horses, or so she allowed me to move my equipment onto her livery yard and rent a double garage. But I didn't pay any money. I just used to have to help out around the farm, like mucking horses out, unloading hay bales off the farmer's tractor and all this sort of stuff. And all these little stories that I'm telling you now, like when I look back on that journey, you're like, wow, did that actually happen? Did that actually happen? And and they're all like sort of nice little things, sitting in the pub, writing the business plan, mucking the horses out and everything else. Sometimes the point I'm making is sometimes you've got to dig deep and do things that you might not want to do. Roll your sleeves up, but it is for the best in the end. So yeah, fast forward, I've been in this unit now 10 years. I left here after about 18 months because I just didn't have enough space in the double garage. Moved to this business premises, which I'm sat in now. Been here nearly 10 years now, to say. Grown year upon year, apart from the COVID years. And within the last couple of years, I've started to franchise the business, which has we're just sitting on six branches open nationwide now.
Fantastic.
And we're continuing to grow and market that. And we think projections show that probably by the end of next year or mid 2025 at the latest, we'll probably be on about 20 branches then nationwide. Amazing. Which is very, very exciting and humbling as well. But yeah, so that's where we're at, John. Yeah.
It's interesting listening to this luck thing. You get a lot of luck from your hard work, but there is luck in it. The FTG was set up on luckily having a conversation with somebody and somebody then backing it. So I do 100% agree that, although you can build a business plan and you can do this and you can do that, you need a bit of lady luck on the way.
And I mean, it's not... Look, you make your own luck in this life, so, for instance, you're not going to have any luck if you sit at home on your couch. No one's going to come knocking on your door. They're not going to come and knock on your door and go, right, here's a job, here's a vocation, here's a career. But if you get out and about, or, put yourself out there on social media, make sure that you're going to the networking events, make sure that you're connecting with people who are leaving at the same time as you. They're not your competitors, they're your support network, because they're in the same boat as you. And if you put yourself out there and do all those things, do everything that you can and start that plan early, luck will find you, because something will happen. Look at, and you only have to look at the likes of Gary and Lewis Matthews and Gary, two people who we know, and I'm sure you've probably done, you've got some sort of literature on those two guys. Those two guys were leaving, and from 12 months when they had the notice in and stuff like that, they were relentless.
Yeah.
They were relentless. Gary's very, very high up now in Amazon, and I think he's had a couple of promotions in the last couple of years. And then you look at Lewis Matthews on LinkedIn, and he's just smashing it. He's absolutely smashing it. And there's only one person who's responsible for that, and it's Lewis and Gary as well, both of those guys.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at the success stories. What did those guys do to get to where they are, and just emulate what they did?
Well, they were hunters, so you know that hunter mentality that you've got, that Lewis had, Gary, that we're seeing a lot of now, is changing the mindset. It's changing the way that things are happening with service leavers. The irony is, though, because of all the great work that the FTG and others are doing collectively, the actual product that everybody's getting when they're leaving is getting better. Somebody else is taking the money for that, but you know what? That's the way it is. But having this kind of hunter mentality, and it's so simple when you say the hunter. Everyone who's leaving the military resonates with it, but everyone that's been successful has been a hunter. Not one of them has been a sleepwalker.
Well, I left with no plan. Left with no plan, and I'll tell you now, I ended up working on temporary contracts in Tesco. It's not against anyone who works in Tesco, but it barely paid me mortgage. I then went on to cleaning toilets on building sites, which, I went and did it, but I didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? I had bills to pay. I had a young son at the time. I went working in a steel factory, which was like proper shift work, 6 to 10, 6. And if anyone's ever done shop blasting, I used to come out of there, and you wouldn't even recognize me, just covered in dust. Worked in the job center, so not anything against any of these jobs that I'm talking about here, but if you're coming out as a corporal, lance corporal, private, whatever, and you've done some service and you've had a bit of clout behind you, and you've had people underneath you, you can very, very quickly be the bottom of the food chain again, and learn by my mistakes, and you'll hear horror stories of other people, because I remember sitting talking to some of the people who were leaving at one of your events all those years ago now, whatever it was, 4 years ago, and people were coming around. It was a bit like a speed dating sort of setup, wasn't it, where they come round and speak to you for like 3 minutes at a time, 4 minutes at a time, I think it was. And I'd say to a couple of the guys, how are you feeling? Oh, well, yeah, I'm all right. Well, how long have you got left to run? Right, well, I'm out in 16 weeks. Right, what have you got to play? I haven't done anything. And you're like, geez, that's not the best, mate. Do you know what I mean? I personally think if you know that your notice, well, they call it the note. What's it called in the army? It's called your notice going in the Navy.
Same kind of thing,
Yeah. So if you know you're putting it in 6 months' time, you need to start your plan then. So you've got 18 months to run. And do everything you can, because the more prep you put in, the better you're gonna be off when you come out.
Absolutely. Well, we're saying we should go beyond that now. Understanding one day you're going to leave is what we all start saying when people join the military, but nobody actually does it.
No.
Preparing yourself early will just create more success. But I was going to say to you, what would you do different? But let's leave that question towards the end.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because we're talking about franchise, and you're going to come to our live show at Concord in Manchester in January.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic, because I think there's probably a lot of service leavers that don't understand what this is. And maybe would want to go into it. What is a franchise?
Well, funnily enough, John, nobody knows what franchising is. It's not just service leavers. It's actually people. I get DMs all the time on my LinkedIn, and it's like a lot of them go, "Is my business franchisable?" I only know about McDonald's. I've only ever watched that film with the founder about McDonald's and this, that, and the other. And it, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to bring awareness and education around franchising just to everyone in general, because not many people know what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, there's over 4,000 franchise business in every different sector. So like my sector's events industry, you know, working outside, which I think would be perfect for a lot of people leaving the service because they've you know, working outside, setting tents. You've been setting tents up all your service career, most of them, haven't they? I mean, I had setting them up on the quarter deck of the bloody HMS Invincible. We used to set the tents up on the flight deck and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so there's lots. There's dog daycare ones. So if you come out and you've been a dog handler, that could be something. And dog training franchises. There's your bricks and mortar ones, which are, you know, food outlets, and there's loads of quirky little ones. So there's like chocolate ones where you go to festivals and you've got a chocolate bike selling chocolate and ice cream, and there's loads of different vocations that you can have within the franchising industry. You'll find something that you like. So I would definitely recommend looking into not looking at my one because it's not for everyone. I understand that. But yeah, there is in franchising. If you want to come out and be your own boss, I mean, when you leave, let's face it, you've probably you're sick to the back teeth of being told what to do. I know I had, and I always knew that I wanted to do something for myself. That's why I went into business in the end, because, you know, running a business is not easy. Even a franchise is not easy, but if you buy into a franchise, what you're buying into is a tried and tested model. So mine, for instance, whenever we've opened a branch, so wherever it is, Birmingham, Milton Keynes, we've got them immediate leads straight away. So that's one of the biggest worries when you start a business, is where is the business going to come from? Yeah. So if you've got that nailed down already, and you know that the model that you're buying into, you're going to start making some money straight away. That's half your battle. All the rest of it can be taught. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's basically, in a nutshell, basically what you're doing is you're buying the license to use somebody else's brand. They give you like the Bible of their business, which is called the operations manual, and that's all the systems and processes for you to follow. You get trained up, you have unlimited, well, mine has unlimited support, and you usually sign a contract for about 5 years as the minimum, and then you have the option to renew, you know, for beyond that if you still like what you're doing. And also, as well, a franchise is an asset. So, you know, once the 5 years is up, it's not just like, right, that's it, close the business. You can actually resell that as an asset then. Okay. So, you know, for instance, our Milton Keynes guy, he has got things going on in his personal life. He's been with us 2.5 years. He's decided to sell it on now. Nothing against us. It's nothing to do with us. He just personal circumstances has changed. So we're trying to help him sell that on now, and he's going to make some money just off selling it, rather than you know, just handing us the keys back to it and going, right, I don't want to do it anymore. It's actually an asset. Yeah, so that's kind of how franchising works. I mean, you know, if we look at failure rates of startups versus franchising, within the first 5 years, 80% of startups fail. Like, so that's the failure rate. Whereas only 20% of franchises fail within the same. So it's a complete shift on the sort of failure rate to success rate. Which is, you know, those numbers speak for themselves. It's taking a risk, but without the risk of like losing everything. Do you know what I mean?
And did you say you're starting up a new channel to explain all these kind of things?
Yeah, so I'm starting a channel. We're just sort of going through the process of editing all the videos and stuff like that. So you'll be able to find a link to that on my LinkedIn, which is just Iain Griffiths, in the coming weeks, months. We've been filming it now for about 5-6 weeks, something like that, each week. So there'll be an educational section. There'll be more information about what I do and how I got into it and what the party say, and testimonials and documentaries on franchisees that we've got. So last week we were down in Birmingham just filming one of our franchisees, just talking about their journey so far and how they found it. And, just to sort of give you a bit of an overview of what they've done. They're a husband and wife combo, and both of them have given up work for, full or part-time work within maybe about 18, 20 months of working with us. So yeah, they're both taking a wage after 20 months, which, if you do a startup, you're not going to take a wage for a long time. Yourself, John, you never took much money when you started your business for a long time. I know I never anyway in the early days. So that's quite a good success story, and all the others are following suit as well of what what they've done. So yeah, it's really exciting times for us at the moment. And first and foremost, I'm in business to make money. I'd be a liar if I didn't say that. We've all got families and mouths to feed and clothes to buy and school shoes to buy. I know I have, having 4 kids anyway, but a bit of a glutton for punishment in that department. But when somebody rings you up and says, right, I've given up work because I can do that. I actually love what I'm doing, and they're so passionate about what, fundamentally I started in my shed 12 years ago, and these guys are so passionate about it. Mate, it makes my sort of work in life just easy. Easy, because it's just, I don't know, it's so humbling. It's so nice to see people doing what I've done for the last 12 years, and don't, like alluded to earlier, it's not easy work. It's quite hard. It's quite physical. During the summer, you're very tired, but it's rewarding, and it is. And I'm in a nice place at the moment, John.
Yeah, that's great to see, mate. It's fantastic to hear that, and your attitude towards it all. Will be rubbing off everybody, and everybody will see it a million miles away, mate. But I suppose that's what attracted me to you in the beginning. It's the kind of the way that you come across is very easy to get on with, and I can see why you would be a success. And we'll plug all of that YouTube stuff for you as well. And of course, if you're coming in January, we'll be able to link it to our website and all.
Yeah, if anyone's watching this, I'm coming over in January. I'll be there in January. I'm only based in Warrington, so it'd be a sin if I didn't just pop over to Manchester and come and make show my face. And although I'll be there representing the Party Tent Company, I'll also be there as a I don't know, maybe a mentor. I left a long time ago, and maybe 16 years ago now. So things have changed. There was probably no internet. Well, yeah, the internet was still there, but there was hardly any social media. I think Facebook had just come out as I was leaving. So, although, I didn't have those tools available to me, I can still talk to people about my experiences since then. And, by my own admissions, my failure to make a plan early on and the repercussions of that, I'm happy to share those stories. And I'll be delighted to come along on that day.
Yeah, and I look forward to meeting you again for, although we've spoke on social media and stuff, we've never kind of met up since. But the question I was going to ask was, what would you do different? But I think we know what you'd do different. It would all be in your plan and things like that.
Well, I think, what would I do differently? I was a very young lad when I left, still relatively young. What was I? 25, 26, something like that. So, what would I do differently is, don't think that you know everything, because you don't. And also as well, if I was talking to myself now, knowing in hindsight what I know now, is, don't think that civilians are going to hand you a job because they don't care that you've been in the armed forces. They just don't care. And if anything, you're a bit of a hindrance to them if you join the workplace. So yeah, just be aware. Not that all civilians are the same, but that can happen.
Yeah.
Be aware that you've got to work extra hard when you leave to prove yourself, because we're not in America here where every veteran gets the beers bought for them left, right, and centre. We're in the UK where a lot of people leave with mental health issues. Unfortunately, some of them end up on the streets homeless. So when you leave, you've got to work extra hard to prove yourself. And those are if I could speak to myself, my younger self when I was leaving, from what I know now, those are the words that I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot for 2 and 3 here. So
Yeah.
I usually ask for 3 golden nuggets at the end. Now, your work hard method is the hunter.
Yeah.
You know, we absolutely come together with that one. If you had another couple of golden nuggets, there's probably a lot, but what would your other 2 be?
Well, don't be scared to put yourself out there. That is the main one. Yeah. Right. You know, if you put right. So say if you don't. When I used to get on videos, I used to be dead rigid, dead sort of. That all goes. If you're going to do a video and talk about yourself, look at the camera as your best mate, just as if you're talking to your mate down the pub. Relax. And if you put, there's no better saying than today's news becomes tomorrow's chip and fish and chip wrappers.
Yeah.
And so if you put a bad post out on social media, it doesn't get any engagement, or somebody has a negative reaction to it, that doesn't matter, because it'll all be forgotten about tomorrow, and something else will be getting slagged off. So that's definitely one of them. But embrace technology, get out there, pester people, become an absolute nuisance to people, because you know, without sort of being a stalker, just be a nuisance, get yourself known, and be polite to people. So that's one of them. Another one, make sure you translate everything from make sure that you get somebody to help you with this as well, because you know, if you've done 22, even if you've done 12, 15, whatever you've done, all you've taught, in the Navy we call it jack speak, I don't know what it's called, but you talk in a different language to civilians which they don't understand. That's probably sort of something that you can help them with, John, isn't it? You know, CV writing and stuff like that. Make sure that you get somebody on board, even if it costs you a few quid, doesn't matter. Pay the few quid, and then you know, the civilians will understand you. You won't be talking in gobbledygook to them, will you?
Yeah.
Looking
at your point, it's about being real. You know, I always put everybody's golden nuggets together, and yours is really taking advice from, or guidance from, yourself, because the reason you're successful is because you've been real to yourself, you've been honest, you've been open, you've put your head down. But I imagine you took guidance somewhere along the line in amongst all of that. So all of the things that you're talking about, by the grit, your determination, your ability not to be afraid of what's actually out there, that life actually can be great, to embrace the new things. I did a podcast a while back with a guy called John Hawker, and one of the things he was talking about is my podcasts, and I said I didn't think I did them very well, and he said, well, actually, you want to, you know, go back and have a look for where you started and where you come now. And he said, why did you start doing them? And I said, well, what I do is I tell people, you have to change. You have to go and embrace everything. And if I didn't embrace social media and doing a podcast and being able to talk and being able to express myself, then all I'm doing is sitting back and being a sleepwalker again. So my hunter mentality isn't coming out. So how can I tell people to do something when I'm not doing it myself?
Yeah, you sort of borderline hypocritical then, don't you? And I've been that myself. And you know, nobody's like, my biggest critic is myself. So like, I've got a team of people. I've got franchise consultants who I speak to daily. I've got a PA called Sarah, and these two people are saying, like, you're doing really well, and I can't see that. And then we go and film a video, and in Birmingham last week, and I said to the cameraman, I'll go round the corner when they were filming the testimonial. So it didn't like sort of think that I was like stood there watching what they're saying, you know, like, so they could just be real in what they were saying on the testimonial. And when we got back in the van to drive back from Birmingham, like the cameraman was like, Jesus Christ, mate, you should have heard what they were saying about you. Like, it was just pure positivity and this, that. And I was like, really? And you know, and you've had it before, John, because we've definitely spoken about this a number of years ago, and it's the imposter syndrome. It's where you think that you're not worthy, and you lose all confidence. And I always think to myself, who the hell do you think you are doing this? Do you know what I mean?
I
What
get that.
makes you worthy of doing this?
Yeah.
And it's a big obstacle to come over, and and it will creep in from time to time, and that's okay. But what you've got to remember that, and have a look back at things that you have achieved. So one way that I get over imposter syndrome is I'll sit at the end of the day in a quiet room, and I'll maybe write 4 or 5 positive things that I've done that day. So it might be something daft like my son's got autism. He's a pain in the ass to get him dressed for school. And if I get him dressed for school or something like that, or I manage to get him to go into school without crying or whatever,
it's a positive.
That's a big positive for that day, and I'll write that down. And that's it's just, if you make these little, this may be the last point, right? Is don't have this big audacious goal at the end of whatever you're doing, but in between those goals, that big goal and where you are now, make lots and lots of little ones, lots of achievable ones. Yeah. And I tell you what, but whilst you're ticking those boxes going along, before you know it, you'll be at that big audacious goal. So yeah, make sure that you journaling, and it sounds a little bit silly sometimes, but when you start writing down the positive things, so you'll be surprised in the things that you do get through during a day, during a working day or a working week, or even over a weekend. Yeah. Just make sure that you're giving yourself recognition for what you're doing along the way. And if that means a little treat meal or whatever it is, whatever your vice is, if you like a pint of Guinness or whatever it is, make sure that you're giving yourself those pats on the back along the way as well. Yeah.
Well, Iain, it's been a brilliant 45 minutes. That's how quick this has gone.
That's it. Yeah, that's how long it's been already.
And I'm really looking forward to meeting up in January. Personally, I really like to thank you for coming on. I know you're busy, and with no more franchises coming on, so that's amazing. It's so pleasing. It gives people, like me, so much pleasure to see other people succeeding.
Well, the feeling's mutual as well. And, I went to some of those really early on events where, when, let's face it, there wasn't really, you didn't have that sort of infrastructure that you have now. Yeah. And, seeing your journey and the FTG group journey, because I've been a huge follower of it. And although I've not been involved in many of the events, over the last couple of years since COVID, it's something close to my heart and something that I enjoyed getting involved with in the early years with Jack. Myself and Jack used to go all the time, didn't we?
Yeah.
But, seeing where it is now and hearing the stories of, look, we're going sitting underneath Concord on the 16th of January. There's not much better than that. No better place to go and sort your resettlement out, go and meet some people, network, take your phone along, start connecting with people on LinkedIn and everything else.
Yeah.
No better place, mate. So yeah, the feeling's mutual, the respect is mutual, and I love what you guys stand for.
Yeah, exciting times, mate. Well, we'll finish there because that's the biggest positive we can ever have. I wish you good luck for the rest of the year, mate. I imagine that a busy time might be coming up. I think it's Christmas soon. But I will see you in January, and we'll speak soon, my friend. Stay safe.
Thanks for having me, John. Cheers.
Bye-bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Project You, Project Me. Thanks for listening in. But remember, we have a Project You, Project Me guide to self-coaching, to self-belief, and it can all be downloaded on our website. We also do the 5 fundamentals: CVs, professional writing. We do brand, we do CPD, making sure you're going in the right direction. We're also looking at your elevation, giving you 2 times the chance to set up your interviews before your first actual interview. And also we look at your financial plan, massively important for your future, for you and your family. So why not come along? Have a look. What you got to lose? It's all free. Stay safe.